the inner and outer bladder meridian for the back and mobilization of the shoulder girdle. So now we're going to bring down into the glutes, the hamstrings, the gastrocs, and the feet, and also the sides, the yang gallbladder sides of the lower body. So just to do a little general loosening of the glutes, we can approach it this way. We're going to come to just on the outside of the sacrum, right in the soft tissue of the glutes, with our knees sinking in. Is it okay? Mm-hmm. And then we're just going to do some nice circles. Like that, Pam? Mm-hmm. Y'all see? And look, see, I'm using my toes, right? So it's like you can just sink in with your body weight just to loosen. You can even add a little twisting if you like. And then I'm going to twist to one side so I can start to work here. Okay, so now we're even with the glutes. And I mentioned earlier that the bladder meridian and the gallbladder meridian come through the glutes. So we're going to loosen the glutes with not only the muscle but the meridians in mind. So I'm going to use, one of the things I'm going to do is use the flat of my fist onto the glutes here, and I'm going to use it with a little mobilization. So I'm going to scoop this up and move it out a little bit. And I'm still right in line with the glutes, and with an extended arm and flat fist, I'm going to bring the leg across and then sink in to the glute. Cross, sink in. And I'm going to work that whole area. And the reason I'm bringing the leg across, now watch what happens here. When I bring it across, the muscle comes up to the surface more. So it's more readily able to engage it. So you start the movement first to bring the musculature up, and then you follow with compression. And then as you bring it back, you ease up on the compression and move to another area. So okay, Pam? Mm-hmm. Not too much? No. Right. Y'all got that part? And you notice I have nice openness here, so my weight is just going this way. Mm-hmm. And the work's in front of me, so I'm not in some rotation. Okay, so that's general loosening. Now we're going to do the same thing, except I'm going to use my knee. So for that, I'm just going to change my angle just a little bit and come at it this way. Because this way, you're going to get right in between the bones. And you can go just in this nice soft tissue line. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to get up with my knee, and as I bring the leg across, I'm going to sink in with my knee. And it's the same thing. Just one movement this way. My work is in front of me, so no rotation in my body. And I'm following this movement. As I move it across, the musculature comes up, I sink in with my knee. Sinking in on the exhale. Now, after I make a pass like that and loosen it up, I'm going to sink in and hold the pressure and then move the leg out. Because that's a whole another thing. You feel? Yeah. That's a whole other thing. So you want to sink in and hold the pressure and then bring this leg out. That's a whole nother thing. Okay, that's a pin and stretch like crazy. So yes, right? So you want to loosen that area. So that's glute. And then you're going to move to hamstring. So economy of movement, I'm like this. I'm going to support. This knee comes down, and this knee comes up, right? And I'm just working down the hamstring. Mm-hmm. And that's also the direction of the bladder meridian that goes right through the hamstring. So I'm going in this one direction. So again, I'm 90 degrees to the body, and I'm using this leg, so as I go down, my stance opens. And I'm using this bent leg not only as a support, but when you sink in and engage the hamstring, and you'll lower this, that's another pin and stretch of the hamstring. And you take it just above the popliteal crease. Now, if this doesn't feel comfortable for you, or if it's too bony on the, for the person, and again, keep your foot relaxed, and the arch of your foot just contours right over the back of the hamstring, into the hamstrings. And it's a nice wide area, so and I'm going to come right up against the the popliteal crease, and I'm just going to bend like this and just. So now we're going to continue down and work the gastroc following right between the head so we can deal with the bladder meridian. So there's a couple different ways of doing it. What I've been doing lately is this. I'm sitting, and I have my knee here, and I'm going to place it right in between the gastroc heads and lean back. You feel that, Pam?
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? Easy. That's one way of doing it. Just placing it right there, and the gastroc opens up right over on either side of my patella. And you want to try to be in line with the Achilles tendon because that's where the meridian is. And I'm just leaning, the pressure comes from me placing my knee and just leaning back. Now, if for whatever reason you're not cool, then you can do this where you're just going to use your thumbs. Right? So I have the foot resting in my lap, and I'm one thumb over the other, and I'm going right in between the gastroc heads, right where my knee was. But it's a little bit more refined, so it gets in there a little bit differently. That pressure's okay, Pam?
Yeah.
And the meridian comes, and just as the muscle, the gastroc, turns into the Achilles tendon, and that's right there, it veers laterally, and it goes in between this groove behind the lateral malleolus and in front of the Achilles tendon, and it comes right onto the side of the foot. And remember, this is where the source point is, and this is the meridian comes right out the side of the toe. So nice. Also, too, what I do in this position after working the bladder meridian is I turn like this, and because of the contour here of the foot, it fits right over here, and I can apply pressure this way. And again, sinking down and just shifting weight, just like we're doing on the back. So it's just sinking down and shifting. So it takes the pressure out of your shoulder joint. Pressure's okay, Pam?
Yeah.
Okay. And now to address this lateral side, after doing that, we're going to do this. Okay. So in this position, we stabilize the leg so it doesn't slip, and we feel for the sacrum, and we're going to use our forearm, and we're going to sink in and cross. Now you're moving the muscles away from the sacrum, sinking in and just away. So,
Yeah.
and then you sink in and away. And then you're right here where you can add palmar compression into the IT band. And then right through in the lower lateral compartment of the leg, the peroneals, right in front of you. So taking that compression down, stretching here, doing the source point for the gallbladder, and right out here. And to end, we're going to take this, which is called the leg, and we're going to bring it this way, and we're going to step across. Now I'm on the opposite side that I was working in. I'm standing even with the hips, and my foot that's closest to her head, I'm going to lift up and place lightly on her lower back, above the sacrum, so my arch of my foot is spanning the lower lumbar. And it's very, very light pressure, just stabilizing pressure. And I'm going to bend at my knees and grab a hold of the foot and inhale. And on the exhale, I'm just going to stand up, and this is a nice psoas stretch from prone position. And you don't have to lean back, you just stand straight up. It's okay, Pam?
Yeah.
So you don't lean, you just lift with your legs. That's why you bend your knees. You just, right? Cool. So I'm going to do the other side, and show you this transition. So as you come down, down, up, and then you can go right and do the other leg, which is this. And the same mobilization using the knee. And all this is in soft tissue. So it's between the sacrum and the greater trochanter of the femur. I do a couple times just to, because the musculature is rather thick and usually pretty taut. And then I'm going to sink in and hold the pressure and then rotate the leg out. So it's a pin and stretch of the lateral rotators. So it's interesting. Going this way is a whole different thing. And you have to loosen it first before you even do. Just one more of those, Pam. Okay. Prepare yourself. Okay, so from here, transition into hamstrings is this. This knee down, this leg up, and you start right underneath the gluteal fold, right at the ischial tuberosity, where the common point of attachment of the hamstrings are. So right up against her and just sinking right in. That's okay?
Yeah.
So again, when you're doing these, you have to come from your belly, right? You have to have control of the pressure from your core. You just can't flop your weight in there. You have to have a sense of a modicum of control so you're not doing too much pressure. So if you're consciously easing into it, you'll be able to feel what's the appropriate pressure. And like I did before, if you prefer, you can use the foot. And again, I encourage you to use the foot that when you're following this natural yang descent of the bladder meridian, that your stance is opening, not closing. Now I'll do this variation. Just come in and then just do stretch. And there's a popliteal crease where we left off, and then the thumb pressure comes right below that in between the gastroc heads for the bladder meridian. So you can see the inner and outer contour of the gastroc heads, and that pressure is going right in between the heads, because that's where the bladder meridian is. Right, and then as soon as you're pressing and the muscle turns into tendon, it's Achilles tendon, it veers laterally in this groove behind the lateral malleolus in front of the Achilles tendon onto the side of the foot. Here's the source point at the base of the fifth metatarsal and right out the pinky toe. And I just turn a little bit so I can address the plantar surface of the foot, because it has nice support on the leg. And again, even this, you don't want to be rotated while you're doing this. Just keep it in front of you so you can just lean in nice. No problem. And then you're going to put the leg in figure 4 so you can work this lateral gallbladder. We're just going to move it. All right. And we're going to support it so it's not sliding. And we're going to feel for the sacrum, and I'm going to use my forearm to sink in just lateral of the sacrum and then away to create a little space. And this is a sign of some tightness here.
I was going to say, that foot coming up.
Not no more. And you take that right until you bump right up against the greater trochanter of the femur. And then you're going to do some compression, either flat of the fist, palmar. You could even use braced thumb to address gallbladder meridian. however you want. See, those are the decisions you make depending on what you've been feeling for the rest of the session, on what to use, how much pressure, what kind of pressure. Compressing on the exhale. And compressing with a little twist of the foot so it opens up the fascia here around the source point. And again, the source point is in front and towards the bottom of here. And then it continues right into the dorsal surface of the foot, out the fourth toe. Okay, and then we're going to come and drag the leg to midline. And now we're on the opposite side, even with the hips. And the foot closest to the head is going to come up very lightly, so the arch of the foot spanning the lower lumbar. So it's above the sacrum, so it allows the leg to come back for a good psoas stretch. And this is also a lovely stretch for the lower portion of the stomach meridian, because it comes right down here. So to get the foot, you don't bend at the waist, but you bend at the knees. Grab a hold and then just straighten and stand with your leg. It's a little tighter on this side. Is that enough?
Yeah.
So you go slow, you go consciously, you can feel so much, right? And then you, that's how you gauge how you work. Okay, cool. And then down and down. And we're going to end today by doing some compression on the feet. So the toes are pointed towards the midline, almost touching, and then you face away, and we're going to end by letting our heels walk on the bottom of our feet. And for them to get nice compression and for you to be aware of what kind of pressure you're offering them, you have to have a certain amount of integrity in your spine so that the weight comes down through the vertebral column of your spine through your pelvis and legs. Right. Whatever variation is good for you for compression. And then from here, it's just traditional to do a backflip off. Okay, thank you.